Welcome back to Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of ComicBook.com. I'm your host, Kofi Outlaw, and I forgot to put on a different shirt, so we're going sleeveless today. All right. Joining me today is my co-host, Janelle Wheeler, and our buddy Matthew Aguilar is out on assignment. It is wrestling time. He is covering the WWE. Shout out to Matt. We hope you have a lot of fun, buddy. And we love it when he gets out of the house and gets to kind of go and play around and do the things he loves. So shout out to Matt, everybody. Send him well wishes and tell him to come back with some good material. And we're going to roll on here on the show. And we brought back our regular, fourth Beatle around here. Mr. Evan Valentine is back with us.
Thank you for having me. Hey, everybody. Just consider me Bizarro Matt today.
Bizarro Matt. I think Matt already qualifies as Bizarro Matt. So I don't think you need to try to take that title. You're good.
That's awesome.
But Evan's here to help us because we are the only show that does it all for geek culture. Some people are trying to rebrand as that, but we've been here a minute, so we're gonna keep on keeping on. But today we have a large variety of things to do. We are going to talk about the DCU, the MCU. We are going to talk about what's going on in TV with some of the kind of hit or bubbling shows that we're watching. We are also going to be talking about some big things happening in genre, and namely horror and anime. We got a couple updates. So, and if we have some time, we got to talk about some comics. Plus, I know we don't do it all the time, but we are the show that covers all things geek culture. And this week, we got to talk about a little bit of Star Trek we need to address. So it's going to be a lot. Everybody strap in, and let's just start from the top. Janelle, there was a bit of controversy this week. A small bit of controversy. If you can't tell, if you aren't watching this live on YouTube, you should be. And if you are not, you should see our header image for this episode, which kind of tells the tale. Shout out.
Yeah, that was actually hilarious.
Yeah,
that was
our
beautiful.
producer put together a great image for us to kind of reflect the controversy happening.
So the controversy...
Janelle, why has your friend James Gunn possibly failed us, according to the internet?
So, first of all, okay, if you guys did not know, an extended teaser trailer came out with the football. I was like, so weird. What is this now? I'm sorry. I can't adjust. Like, to me, it should be basketball, whatever. It just came out. And there is this one particular scene that people have just clung on to that they just cannot let go of it. It's during a flying scene through the snow. And people are just hypercritical because everyone thinks they're a filmmaker these days, that the way that our lead actor's face looks like he's kind of like a goat, like looking in opposite directions because of maybe the type of camera that was used to focus on his face during it. I will say that I think personally this has been hilarious to follow. I don't take it really seriously, so watching other people freak out about this makes me giggle. I just think some of the commentary is so funny. So I've just been kind of enjoying the nerd freak out moment and not getting too serious about it. But I know that some people are very passionate about this character and about what they're doing with Superman, and they have to have an opinion. So I was curious what you guys are thinking about it all. I guess we should start with Evan. I was gonna say we should start with Evan since he's our guest.
Sure. Yeah, it's ridiculous. You kind of said it, Janelle. I think it's just the kind of camera that they used. And listen, there's us all being nerds, us all being geeks. There's more than, I'm sure all of us have had our own instances where we nitpick something to death, and we kind of look at every single frame to kind of say, well, it shouldn't be like that or something like that. And we were talking a little bit about it before the podcast started, and it's just something where it like I wouldn't have seen it had the controversy not happened. When I saw it originally, I didn't notice that anything was wrong. They're using kind of something
Same.
like a yeah, they're using something kind of like a fisheye lens for it to kind of give you a, you know, you're seeing. When I saw it originally, the thing that I took away from it was that this is a Superman who is a fun-loving guy. The way that he is flying and the way that he's kind of like doing a loop-de-loop through what might be the exterior of the Fortress of Solitude kind of shows that, you know, this is like a farm boy, a country boy who has the ability to fly, and that, like, there it is. And I think that, you know, people are gonna nitpick. It's a lot of what like nerds do, what geeks do. I just think it's crazy overblown, but you know, it is what it is.
Welcome to Nerd Life. Everything is overblown. Kofi, you're muted.
King's Port Call makes a good point. I mean, you pause anything at any point in any video these days. I have all these fools up here. I have like embarrassing pause moments on them that I keep just in case any of them ever get out of line.
As blackmail.
you think I'm kidding? But you can pause anything. I mean, I have a collection of myself. You know, I like to abuse myself. So I have a collection of my own pauses because it's only fair. But yeah, you can do that for anything. Second of all, you know, sidebar for a minute. You and Matt with this guest stuff. Like, I'm glad you guys are gracious hosts, but this guy is not a guest. He is your paid friend. He has been here so long. Like, you guys always have like some weird red carpet rules for guests. These people are paid friends, and this man has hosted his own show on this Comic Book Nation network at a point. Yeah, so he has to go through the same abuses as all of us. You know, it's the same down here for all of us. But now we love you, Evan. But in all seriousness, yeah, King's Port Call over on YouTube also kind of nails something that I said in a Secret Return podcast that I'm back for. So make sure you check your feeds because we back on that too. Yeah, you guys are just in denial. Some people are just so polite. You guys want to be so polite all the time that you just won't. We have to go. I hate the world and people now because we have to do 15 steps to support people's delusions rather than just talking about the thing that's brutally honest right in front of us. But we create all these intricate labyrinths to get around it. David Corn Sweat just has a lazy left eye, guys. I'm sorry to tell you. Do your photo research. Just look at it.
I'm pretty sure that's what he said. That
that's just his eyes, guys.
That's like, what James Gunn said. Said
he was trying to say it in the nicest possible way without insulting his lead actor, but he was like, there is no CGI on his face. It's not made from AI. That's his face while we're doing the flying effect. Like, that's what it looks like. Like,
well, he's probably also like doing like kind of squinting a little bit because there's wind being literally
there's wind being blown in his face. Yes, they're doing the real aerodynamics of this, and this is what I love and hate about nerds. Everybody's like, no, and they're putting up these Zack Snyder and Superman and Lois side by sides all over the place, and I don't think people understand self-owning. Like, when you show us the Snyder stuff, and I loved that first flight sequence in Man of Steel. The music, the hopping, you know, the possibly tearing up Africa as you're testing yourself out, you know, all of that was great. But yeah, when you see it side by side, you're like, oh, wait, yeah, because the people who are supportive were like, hey, look, we've come so far. There's now a flying Superman whose hair moves in the wind. Like, and you look back at all those old movies and you're like, oh, that's actually pretty hilarious. Yeah, like Christopher Reeve, Brandon Routh, Henry Cavill, Tyler Hoechlin, all of their cool slick backs never move an inch when they're going through these intense flying sequences, which is especially hilarious because now that's kind of I'm a big Man of Steel cheerleader, but like I can't unsee that now. Like, when I go watch that battle. When you watch the Battle of Smallville and you watch these Kryptonians knocking the living crap out of each other through buildings and like never mess up your due though. Like, I would have almost liked to go back and add a scene of Henry Cavill patting it and being like, yeah, it's still pretty. So like, yeah, I think, you know, it's always funny. We get advancements that we think we want, but then we can't handle the difference when we see it. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, Superman's face is going to be doing, his not going to, cheeks aren't going to be like flapping. He's Superman. But yeah, he's flying through the air at high speed, especially if he's picking up speed for his own enjoyment. Like the wind whipping through your hair is kind of the effect you want, right? That's why us and our canines all stick our heads out the window, while we're driving. That's that's the effect you want. So I don't know, man.
Beautiful
I don't
point.
know. I think we live in a time now where there isn't real reactions to things. People are just preloaded like Pez dispensers to spit out these little candy nuggets of, I hate this because, or James Gunn's a terrible filmmaker. And it's just like, it's a 2-second clip. But hey, some of y'all are new to this. Okay. Not moi. I've done this. I did this for the first Henry Cavill bank vault image that was released. We argued about the monochromatic color palette and, his hair, and if he had too much of a crow's peak and, all of this stuff. I did the arguments about the first Gal Gadot behind the scenes training shot of her putting up her bicep and people being like getting out tape measures and going to see Steroid Bros and being like, that's not a Wonder Woman enough bicep. Like, I did all this already. So I'm not going to get all crazy because eventually now there's people willing to die on a sword for Henry Cavill Superman. So
some people were around when Heath Ledger was announced to be the Joker. I'm just saying.
One of my first days ever working at ScreenRant.com that's where I jumped in, was the Joker. I'm not kidding. It was the Joker. I was sitting in the new school in New York City on the corner of 6th Avenue and 14th Street. And I remember sitting in the student lounge because this was back in 2007. We still didn't have all Wi-Fi everywhere, guys. You had to sometimes sort out why, like Ethernet or Wi-Fi places like your school. So I was sitting in there watching that little countdown thing clock to the reveal of the first Joker audio sample and image. And he's sitting in the car and he's like, tonight I'm going to make you break your one rule. Like that. It was like a 2-second audio clip. And the whole world, we were all just sitting there like, come on. Like, yeah, that's right. That was like one of the first.
It was as negative back then.
Oh, it was super duper negative.
It was crazy.
Oh, it was crazy negative.
So like, was all this. Nothing has changed. We just always sucked.
No. Oh yeah. Yeah. But it was just like in weird chat threads or on the comments of Ain't It Cool News, with that big all caps lettering. But like, yeah, people, it was all who? The 10 things I hate about you, the Knight's Tale guy, he's going to be the Joker? Like, nah. Like, Australian guy? Nah. I don't know why the Australian part was like such a big deal, but it was. I didn't know like we were USA Joker or something, but I don't know. But yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, and Jay Jones on Twitter is absolutely correct, Janelle. The only thing that's really changed is we made big asshole platforms to do this on now. So now you can just amplify this and get you and your buddies who are also kind of questionably, behaviorally challenged to, make you feel validated that you're right in this innatity that you're engaged in. But, the funny part is the amount of people who are actually not going to go see Superman is, I'm feeling like, relatively low. I feel like even if you have problems, you got to know. This is one of those things like it's going to be a cultural thing. Like you got to know. You got to know what the new Superman movie is. And we forget this because we're hardcore nerds, but this is the reality of these kind of superhero movie marketplaces. There are just characters that when they come out, you kind of got to know. People have to know. And they got to go. And a Superman movie is a cultural event like a big Star Wars movie is. Like, so I'm very interested. But so far, I think they should do more to get David Corenswet. I think part of this is we don't know David Corenswet enough yet. And he's kind of an unknown. And I think they need just more media events. Get him and Rachel out there. Like, let people see them because I think they got really good chemistry. I think they're good together. And I think, like, just us getting to know him, it shouldn't be hard to sell an all-American Pennsylvania boy to the world, I think we can
I do have I have something to contribute to that. If you are dang, I can't remember the name of the specific TV show. He was also like in Pearl, the horror movie Pearl, which he was really good in. But there is a clip online, and you can type this into YouTube, and it's just type in David Cornsweet, Clark Kent, and someone found an old clip where he is like in he's in like the the World War II era, where he's playing a guy who's trying to get a bank loan, where he is trying to be an extra in a movie, like film in a filming of a movie.
Yes, a Ryan Murphy series. I forget what it's called. It was a Ryan Murphy show.
Dang, I wish I knew the name of it. But it is the perfect representation of Clark Kent that I've like seen in like for a role that is not Clark Kent. And I would say that if you had any doubts whether or not this dude could be Superman and could play Clark Kent, this is the one. You just have to watch this clip. It's 30 seconds long. And it is just the perfect. When I saw it originally, I was like, is this guy going to be a good Superman? I saw that and was just kind of like blown away. And I'm like, oh, this dude got it. This guy is like 100% white bread American. Like just like completely like milk toast kind of.
It's called Hollywood. It's it's Ryan Murphy's Hollywood. Yeah.
Oh, Ryan Murphy's Hollywood. Yeah. Check that out. He's that one clip specifically just completely sold me on him being like Clark Kent in general. So yeah, it will give you what you need in terms of selling you on this character.
We also aren't like, I mean, we are getting hung up on one element of this. Like Lex Luthor, or Nick Holt's Lex Luthor is giving me better and better vibes every time I see more of him. We've already seen him in a range of Lexi things, kind of from down bad and teary to, you know, cocky, stepping off a helicopter to looking at a gun and having that not moral dilemma, but, you know, Lex does weigh things. He's not so arch that he's always he does what's in the best interest of Lex and at times the world, because the world will still benefit Lex.
Yeah.
So it's always that weird kind of layered thing. But I think the world of this Superman is what I'm most invested in seeing, because it is a bigger world. This is the first time we are putting Superman in a world fully with other superheroes and examining it from that angle of who is this guy to other heroes in the midst of all this. Like, and so I'm interested about that story. It's a new story for us cinematically. It's not just selling us on the idea, you will believe a man can fly. It's like, you will believe this guy is the hero of heroes. But still endearing to an everyday person. And nailing that down is a challenge. And I'm just here to see if they do it.
Yep.
Same. Beautifully said.
All right. So I think we did that. We can move on from one controversy to another. So DC wasn't the only one sweating this week about whether they're getting their new 20, in this pivotal year, if they got in their tentpole movie right. Marvel was down bad this year after just a kind of awkward moment, or just the spin of a moment that we are now. This is just our world. But Anthony Mackie was doing a press event for Captain America Brave New World where he addressed what Captain America is. And he said something to the effect that Captain America isn't just representative of one nation, of one culture or its values, but he's supposed to be this larger than life hero who, is his nobility, his compassion, his bravery, his sense of duty, that these ideals are what make your Captain America. And of course, this being the new order of the day, we have shifting political winds. And this went into the kind of political circuit and got spun into basically a dog whistle for, hey, there's Black Captain America now, but he doesn't believe in America. And, so many words, which I thought was hilarious, because I will sum this whole story up by saying, and I almost posted this, but I forgot online because I don't care about sharing this with anybody on Twitter or any of these idiot platforms. But I was playing my Marvel Rivals. I'm deep into Marvel Rivals right now.
Awesome.
And my number one primary character is Cap. I love Cap because I'm a Reinhardt guy in Overwatch. Carries over very much. So I'm a Cap. So when you begin Marvel Rivals, there are these intricate kind of intros to the game. Sometimes like you're going down a long elevator in one of them, and before you get down to the bottom, and then you start the game, arena opens and you start playing. And so the characters actually have little dialogue tracks while they're sitting there. Do you know what Captain America's dialogue track is in Marvel Rivals? It says he says something to the effect of, this isn't, I'm not just one flag, like I'm an ideal or something like that. Like, it's not about just a flag, it's about the ideals. This is what this little video game character says, Captain America, in the video game, okay? So tell me what's so wrong about Anthony Mackie echoing that same sentiment, which is, by the way, the core sentiment of Captain America, because the funny part is all these pro-defending American types. I think when I wrote the article about this, I said people who don't know their Doctor Strange from their Doctor Doom all of a sudden have all these opinions about comic book characters and the nature of them, but don't really understand them. If you are arguing that Captain America is just a kind of symbolic shill for the country no matter what, you didn't see the first Avenger. You've never really read a Captain America comic for very long. You didn't see Infinity War or Civil War or anything from when Steve Rogers was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Or Winter Soldier. You know, do you know what Winter Soldier was about? It was about Captain America being like, wait, I have got to question what the U.S. government's doing. This is crazy. I'm not representing this. And Gunn going on his own and trying to do something different. And by the time Civil War comes, completely breaking and becoming a secret Avenger. So again, I don't think people understand what self-owning is. I think a lot of people operate in the world today like, yeah, I got it. I did it. Because they posted it and some other idiots thinking they're like, oh, you did it. But like, that's a self-own. You don't understand Captain America or what this character is about and how it relates to back into our socio-political fabric, which is Captain America is the embodiment of us striving for the ideal of a fair, noble, equal America that in reality, we know we are not there yet, but he's the guy that makes us believe we can get there. That's what Captain America is.
I think that's perfectly said, Kofi. I think that one of the best quotes for me regarding like Cap and what he personifies was from when J. Michael Straczynski wrote took on the character in his Amazing Spider-Man run during Marvel's Civil War, where his quote was, "This nation was founded on one principle above all else, the requirement that we stand up for what we believe, no matter the odds or the consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move." And that's just kind of like, that's kind of the personification of what Cap is. And I think that much like what we saw in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, like anybody can be Captain America. Like yes, Steve Rogers held on to the mask for a long time. But as long as you're willing to pick up that shield, as long as you're willing to stand up for like a certain ideal, you can be Captain America. And I always find it funny that when there's controversy surrounding Captain America, I think of a past Captain America comic book from the 1970s that like a lot of people forget about, but it's so controversial in terms of there was a storyline where Captain America fought the hate monger. And in this storyline, this horrible supervillain is actually revealed to be Richard Nixon. And when Captain America confronts him, he commits suicide in the Oval Office. And I just can't imagine
that image. Because he puts the flag over him and it's like a gun smoking. He's holding him. Like,
crazy.
It's crazy.
It's I couldn't imagine that storyline like happening now and like the controversy surrounding that. But like it happened in the past. And like luckily the internet didn't exist then. But like that storyline in and of itself is just so wild. And like, I think that's just a representation of like, it's like the character went there in the past and it's gone there. And
Yeah. Oh, Marvel has stayed dangerous with Captain America over the
sure.
decades. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's been points when Captain America's like, man, I can't represent all this. This place is a mess. I'm going on the road.
Oh
Just
yeah,
like,
I'm
no.
gonna become nomad.
Yeah.
I'm
It was
gonna
like,
give up the shield, and I'm gonna give
yeah.
it to was that when he gave it to US agent and they had that crazy, I can't even remember.
Yeah. I mean, it's been passed around. He was just like, y'all got this. I can't.
I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's funny. But, I mean, we all know what this is about. I wrote an article about, the massive challenges facing Captain America Brave New World. This is becoming a cultural lightning rod. I mean, we always suspected that there would be some of this, but that's kind of the point of the movie in a funny way, is like, who is fit and to represent America, how, and who do you obey? Like, all of this is the question that we're working out in this movie. So yeah, it's gonna be crazy, but I'm gonna be there. So
Oh yeah.
I'm more concerned about, because we always the world gets difficult because you want to fight the cultural battle, but then there is a movie at the heart of this that we actually do have to critique and watch and be objective about, and can't just be like, I'm so for my side of this movie to exist to not critique the movie itself. We have to actually do that. Now, I'm saying that because there are some concerning flags hanging over Captain America Brave New World. The amount of reshoots this movie went through, from like the first half of last year, they reshot. They essentially rebuilt this movie, if we're all being honest. It was a Chapek era movie. They looked at it, they were like, oh God. And then they went back and they shot a new movie. Giancarlo Esposito did not exist in this movie the first time around.
Yep.
They
Also,
shot an entirely,
Seth Rollins was originally of the WWE was originally supposed to be in this movie as one of the members of the Serpent Society. Like, he was in a costume. People took pictures of him on set, and now his character is just completely gone. From what he says, it's not in the movie anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, they made a new
Wow.
movie. They made a new movie out of this. And I always get nervous about that, Justice League, because you can really feel kind of pieced together and incoherent and not like a whole. So I always get nervous when that happens. There's the cultural part. Obviously, there's people who are going to review bomb this, boycott this. This is the first kind of major piece of media that the kind of current emboldened trolls can hold up. You're hearing a lot of kind of crazy dog whistle buzzwords. Oh, DEI, Captain America. This is still like the woke Marvel. Like, all of this stuff is going to make it a target. So there's that. And yeah, I mean, it has to be up to that Winter Soldier level. You know what I mean? Like, this franchise in particular has earned a rep for itself for high grade action espionage. And that's what they've been selling in these trailers a lot, is that more kind of hard edge 70s thriller, political espionage thriller. So I hope they got that movie out of this. But I am. Oh, and the other thing is there's limited screenings. That's a behind the scenes reveal, but there are screening these in limited markets. They're not doing a lot of secondary markets. I don't know that we will get to see this movie in Nashville before it comes out. So that's, see, you heard Janelle right there. Yeah. She said a lot in one little just kind of expression. She just said a whole lot. Like, yeah, if you don't know our industry, you can tell the tides of how a movie or at least how a studio thinks a movie is going to do by which markets they screening it. They can't hide it from major markets, because if they do that, that's like the ultimate red flag that this is just grade F movie. But if they're kind of scared that it could go either way, what they do is they kind of stick to major markets, but they don't do secondary markets, because secondary markets have a lot of outlets that are not beholden to studios in any kind of way. They don't have to work with studios to get access or do anything. Old country radio station out here in Bumbleweed, Tennessee, guy doesn't care about like a Disney PR person. So he's just going to say whatever he's going to say about this. So I don't think they want that influx of opinions.
Can I share a funny anecdote? When I was I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, for those who don't know, and I get a lot of press screening invites. And actually, hilariously, when I went to go see the Marvels for the first time ever, Disney gave us alcohol, which was something that they had.
Oh yes, they gave us a free promotional drink out here too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
we got
yeah.
free-
Oh, it was great, and they'd never done it before. Not to say that I don't think, like, me personally, I think the Marvels gets a lot of hate that it shouldn't, but also, like, I just found that hilarious to be like, yeah. Oh
Were you
yeah. here's a
drunk when
free
you
drink.
formed that opinion? No, I'm kidding. No, but they had a specialty drink. The only other person that did that was The Rock. Does that a lot. He'll do like tie-in tequila drinks.
Yeah.
Before you see Black Adam, have a free drink on me. Like, The Rock does that a lot. So yeah, but no, Marvels was fun. But like, yeah, I was like, huh? When they had that promotional drink, they were like, make sure you go to the bar. We want you to have a lot of fun. And we were like, okay, for sure. They're like, here's a drink with a bunch of cherry flavored vodka and blue Hypnotic. Yeah, we're getting all the Marvel colors in there. Yeah, it was great. Love that movie. I don't know why. But yeah, so there are concerning signs for this movie. And, I feel bad for Anthony Mackie, of all people, because he's worked for this for a very long time. Mackie has been doing good work, for 20 odd years now, since his little 8 Mile kind of breakout. And he deserved, I think in general, he deserved better to inherit this character than that kind of quasi divisive series he got. And now the mess of this movie. But I'm going to go see it. I want to see it. I want to see what it does for the MCU and if it pushes us forward, because that's the thing I think that could make it appointment viewing. Is this could be the first time since Endgame that we get a movie that actually invests us in the larger story of the MCU again.
I do want to see, like, I am hoping that this movie gives us like an Avengers roster, because like we really don't know who's on the Avengers right now. Like, there isn't an Avengers.
No,
so,
there's
like,
nothing to this. The MCU has become nothing. It really is just nothing.
So gathering heroes for like Doomsday would be like, this would be a good place to be like, oh, okay, these people are going to be on the team. I think that would kind of work.
Yep. So, all right. Janelle, any final thoughts?
I'm just learning a lot here.
You didn't know that Richard Nixon was hate monger? There you go.
We'll see.
I think they even did a Scooby-Doo team-up episode about it.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo keeps up with Captain America to fight the hate monger.
Dude, my excitement level for this has just been so up and down. I've just been all over the place. So I just am ready for it to happen finally. I'm ready to see it.
All right. I had to process several jokes there and then just move on. All right, let's go. So, Evan, let's move on to some genre talk before we take a break. We got some bad news and some interesting news. Yes. The bad news came out of anime. Interesting news came out of horror.
So to start, one of the let's start with I guess you could look at these both as bad news. But for those who have been keeping up with Netflix in general, one of the biggest new series is a live-action anime adaptation of One Piece. And ever since the new series debuted in 2024 with its first season, a lot of people were kind of taken aback in terms of how good it was, because I don't know if people know, but there have been a lot of examples of live action anime adaptations that have not been able to live up to the source material. So a lot of people were really thrown for a loop when Netflix's One Piece was able to do that. Now, while there hasn't been a release date or even a release window for One Piece's second season, Netflix did have some kind of, in a roundabout way, some bad news for folks, because a lot of people were expecting season 2 to kind of arrive sometime this year, maybe in winter of this year. And unfortunately, Netflix had a preview video where they kind of did a rundown of like the things that are coming out in 2025. One of the big things that were left out of that was One Piece season 2. It was not confirmed to come out this year. leading many to believe that it is going to come out in 2026, which would again kind of mean that we were probably like 2.5 years since One Piece season 1 debuted. And that's a shame for a lot of people. I think that in this day and age, the gap between seasons, and we're going to talk about Severance a little later. That's one of the problems I had with Severance, was that there is this big gap in between seasons. And so production has finished. They have wrapped filming on One Piece's second season, but we will most likely be waiting until maybe like at best. There is the possibility that it comes out like maybe December of 2025, but like that's going to be at the absolute earliest. I do think that this is going to be one of the things that maybe Netflix starts out immediately from the jump in 2026. But this is a series with a lot of moving pieces. It takes a lot of CG. It takes a lot of actors to bring the grand line to life. So, yeah, that's one of. Have you, Kofi, Janelle, have you guys been watching? Do you guys watch that first season of One Piece, the live action?
Oh
one?
yeah, it was like one of my
Definitely.
most popular videos. Yeah, we
Yeah, it was
we did a whole
awesome.
thing
Mm-hmm.
about it. Yeah, because it got us all into One Piece, and
Yeah.
we were too intimidated by the anime to start. But we were all like, "Oh man!" After this, we were like, "This was actually really a good exposure to One Piece." But yeah, I'm writing an article that I'm working on, but it's basically just saying like, look, this whole streaming dream of TV is over. Like, it's over. And I knew it was over not because of Severance. Severance was a near fatal delay, but it has enough mystery and enough intrigue that like you got right back in that second season. You're like, damn it, I'm back in. I tried to turn on Mythic Quest this week because Mythic Quest is also back on Apple TV. And I saw the actors and immediately paused, went to Wikipedia and was like, wait, when is the last time I saw Mythic Quest? And it was 2022, 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't care. I'm sorry. Like, I liked this show, but I don't care. Like, I'm not invested enough to have waited 3 years, come back. Y'all are looking old as hell. Like, these are not even like, when I can physically see the changes in the actors, like, this is problematic. Like, and this is our like our blueprint for streaming shows. Follow a series, then 3 years, I got to dig back through my brain to keep going with this, all on streaming, and half of us talk about it, but half of us don't. Like, this is over. This is over. Like, we all said it this year. We want to get back to just like 6 shows of appointment TV. HBO is right. That new boss at HBO is betting right. Get these big shows back on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock that we all are going to be talking about for the next couple days. And that is all I have time for. I do not have time for 15 services with 15 shows that disappear for 3 years at a time and then come back and keep track of all this. I do not care. Hollywood, your product, I do not care that much. There's so much else I could be doing with my time. Like, Mythic Quest, man, that messed me up. I started playing. I was like, what? I was like, how long has it been since I've been here? 3. I'm not coming back. I was like, I don't care. I don't care enough. Like, I know you don't care, Rob McElhenney. You're doing like you're over in England playing soccer now. Like, what are we doing? Anyway.
You mean football?
You never know where the grenades. Yeah, you never know where the grenades are going to be in this show. But streaming war, over. Y'all just, you guys are chumps. And Netflix is going up to $25, and you know what? They're going to get it because we're all slowly eroding back into just, hey, Netflix, you handle the licensing deals. You tell me when something's new. Scream 6 came out today, as far as I'm concerned, because it's on Netflix today. It's been on Paramount Plus for like a year plus, but who knew? Who was watching? Nobody. So now it's on Netflix, and guess what the new hot movie is right now that everybody's talking about, trending? Oh, Scream 6. Oh, look, just in time for Scream 7 news. Like, yeah, and just put it on Netflix. I want to be like my grandpa. Like, I'm getting to that age. I'm not hunting all this down. When it comes on Netflix, that's when it exists. Maybe like Max, Netflix, and the weirdo like Apple. Like, those are kind of the top ones. Although I got to say, Disney Plus has bounced back, and I don't think we're saying this enough. I actually I was talking to my wife because I tried to watch Alien Romulus on Hulu, but I was like, the quality, I was like, I can't do this on Hulu. Switched over to Disney Plus and was like, damn, yeah.
Wow,
Disney Plus has become really good. Putting all that adult content, putting focus features, 20th Century Studios, all these things, you know, integrating all the Hulu stuff, like all of that FX stuff, you know, into Disney Plus. They are low-key kind of becoming a good hub for all this stuff. I can entertain me, the kids, everybody. All these hot movies coming out, you know, Deadpool, Wolverine, Alien, Romulus. Like they're not sleeping over there. But Apple TV, Zach G, we're talking. I don't know how we got in this conversation. I know how, but we're gonna end it. But Apple TV, I was talking about like as one I would keep because everything on Apple TV is pretty much fire. Like every one of the things they offer, but it's just not like big enough to feel important enough. But when you do sit down and watch it, you're like, oh wow, this was worth my $5 a month to watch like Severance and Silo. And Foundation and Servant, and they like those one-word titles a lot. But or Shrinking, and they pretty much everything Apple does is like high quality. They are like the new HBO to me. Like when HBO, if you don't remember, HBO wasn't huge. It was like this upstart little premium channel you had to pay for, but everything on it was like Sopranos and it was fire. But people didn't really catch on until it was like on DVD afterwards. They didn't go to HBO necessarily in high numbers. But yeah. All right. That was a waste of time. We just kind of shifted into that. There was something that happened with Scream. We were talking about Scream 6. There was something that happened with Scream 7.
Yeah, there's a lot happened yesterday regarding Scream 7, which is very interesting news. You can see it as good or bad. Both Scott Foley, who was originally in Scream 3, is going to make a comeback, as well as Matthew Lillard, which is very interesting considering that he was, as Scream fans know, he was one of the killers of the original Scream movie. His character was killed in that movie. So
was he?
Was he though? Does he have a mysterious twin brother, a cousin for? Who knows? But honestly, like one of the things that we did see in the past Scream movies was that they were able to bring back Skeet Ulrich in his original role. They de-aged him using CG. For me, that to me is how I think they'll bring back Stu in this. But they will be bringing him back for this movie, whether or not this is going to be that Sidney Prescott sees him in his, like, where they de-age him. I don't know. That's going to be very weird to me. But that's what they did in previous movies. So I think, what do you guys think in terms of them bringing back both of them?
I think there's been, like, tracking this down, there's been a lot of comebacks for this one. Like they are bringing back a lot of people for this one, not just from from across the Scream spectrum. And I think some people have had this theory that we could be getting like a New Nightmare situation.
That would be cool. That would be. If you don't know, I'm a fan of New Nightmare.
Yeah, Scott Foley's coming back, and there's just some interesting things happening. Courtney Cox, Nev Campbell's coming back. So, if you don't know what we're talking about, New Nightmare was an installment of the Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy Krueger franchise. But New Nightmare was where Wes Craven started really kind of getting into this whole meta type deal about kind of movies within movies and acknowledging the process of making movies. And so New Nightmare is a movie about somebody making a movie about Freddy Krueger, but inadvertently creating a portal to the actual Freddy Krueger returning. So a lot of the movie is cribbed in the idea of this happening on the set of a Freddy Krueger movie. You follow?
Super meta, breaking all the fourth walls.
Yeah. So and they even do this whole thing where the Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy in the final girl in the original Nightmare on Elm Street, plays herself as an actress in the movie, but she's still a character because it's her discovering that this role she played as Nancy is now becoming a real thing and Freddy is real, quote unquote. And so yeah, so it's this is, like I said, it's this level of where Wes Craven started really getting into the meta bones of what would become later Scream. But this was where it kind of started. I can't remember if this is the one that had the 3D claw coming out at you, or was that
No, that
Final
was
Nightmare?
Freddy's Dead.
Freddy's Dead. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so we think this could be, there's theories that this could be happening with Scream, so that it's some kind of like anniversary or type of thing, or somebody making some kind of movie, because there is Stab, right? But like this could get more meta, like they're making actual Scream, and these are the actors maybe playing themselves, and then they start getting killed off as some real murder thing happens. And you could get into Hollywood and acting and backstabbing and all this stuff. It could be really meta funny, but that's the theory that's out there.
Janelle, have you seen the Scream movies?
I mean, I've seen them, but they're not my style at all. I'm not into horror, so I just kind of like watch. And
no Ghostface cosplay on the resume?
I actually, this is really funny because these are my slippers. I got them for Halloween.
Oh, that's I need to get those slippers, man.
Yeah. But I just
awesome.
but I just kind of like, I feel like when I was a lot younger, I was like, oh, this is cool, like Scream 1, Scream 2, and then I just kind of fell off.
Not fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm surprised you and the hubby have never done like a gender reverse kind of Drew Barrymore opening scene.
I don't know.
Like running across the lawn, and you get to like the Ghostface knife.
I don't
That'd be
really
dope.
like to like give anyone ideas of hurting me. That's I don't think,
what? Did you? I don't think you heard what I said. Let's move on. I said gender flip. He would be the Drew Barrymore. You would be the never mind.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know.
See Haley Bieber and Justin Bieber. They already did it. Never mind.
So freaky to me sometimes, because I feel like anything will just like trigger a weird reaction from people and like what they do.
You know what? Evan and I will take this one. Evan, next time you come to Nashville, awesome. we're doing our own Ghostface Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tie my shirt up at the middle and I'll be running across the lawn. Or you know what? I'd rather do the Scary Movie version with Carmen Electra. That was a lot funnier.
I would be the tallest.
I did love Scary Movie.
Tallest Ghostface. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, I would be the tallest Ghostface for sure. But yeah, also Scary Movie. There is a new Scary Movie coming out, so that would be cool. They're gonna take that back.
That's awesome.
All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk about what's going on TV. There's a new Marvel animated show, Star Trek movie, and we got to do some check-ins with the TV we are currently watching. Stay tuned. Oh, are we back? Are we so back?
I feel like we're back, but our faces aren't. That's okay.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Oh, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. The MCU has launched a new animated series where we are in an alternate reality where Peter Parker is getting a very different Spider-Man origin and mentorship. What did you guys think about the first 2 episodes?
Janelle, you go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I feel like a little mixed here because I actually love the script. I loved like the voice acting is so great. I love the story. I love how much they're folding in like so many little references to other MCU characters. Like literally episode 1 we see Doctor Strange, sorry. Doctor Strange. And that just makes me so happy. But the animation is a little weird for me. It feels like a video game. Like the entire show just feels like a video game to me. And I don't know if that was like a purposeful thing or if they're just really wanting it to look like a specific comic, like a reference that I don't know of or something, but it's a little hard to watch. It's like easier to kind of just have it in the background and like really be into it, but I can't like zero in on it because the animation is just not my style of animation that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just too old for this element for me.
I do agree on that. I think that like the use of CG animation in this, there are times where I was taking note of this, where like characters interacting and talking and stuff doesn't look all that. I think that like longtime Spider-Man nerds like ourselves can see kind of some of the influence of like Steve Ditko's original art that's used here. That kind of works on a sense, especially like the character designs and everything. It kind of harkens back to that. But there are just times where like character interactions and the way that they move, I totally get you, Janelle, on like feeling like it kind of feels like a video game cutscene at some points. I totally feel that. I think that there are other times where specifically, I think where it really works is like when Spider-Man is swinging around. I think that kind of looked like fluid. That kind of, to me, it looked pretty good. I will say that, like, in terms of, it's a strong enough start in terms of how the story is progressing. I think that the most interesting stuff are the changes to the traditional Spider-Man lore and the MCU stuff. Obviously, they've swapped out Tony Stark for Norman Osborn. The way that they recreate that scene from Captain America Civil War just works exceptionally well. That was a nice like curveball to it. For me, one of my favorite Spider-Man cartoons of all time, probably my favorite Spider-Man cartoon of all time, is Spectacular Spider-Man. I think that is the pinnacle of like Spider-Man stories. It just works exceptionally well. And the animation on that, I remember, got a lot of like pushback in terms of like people were like, it looks weird. The characters kind of look a little weird and stuff like that, but the story worked so well that like I was able to overlook kind of that. But we'll see how the rest of it goes. I think that it was a strong enough start to kind of, it piqued my interest. I think that there were a lot of cool things. I'm a big Tombstone guy. I think Tombstone is a very cool villain. So seeing that one of Peter's best friends is Lonnie Lincoln, who may or may not become Tombstone in the future, kind of worked well here. Distance Nerding in the comments said, really love the intro song. I kind of dug that intro song, which is kind of a combination of that original theme song while kind of modernizing it in a way. Kind of worked pretty well. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I think like a promising start, but there were definitely kind of like a few holes in the boat, as it were. So yeah.
It's no X-Men 97, man. I see.
Yeah.
It's so tough to compare anything to X-Men 97.
Well,
Seriously.
again, but we also know, like, again, I know what this was supposed to be and then what it ended up being. And I think there's a reason why Marvel itself just said, separate this into its own thing instead of being an actual canonized prequel to the Spider-Man Homecoming films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think they looked at it and decided, oh, that's great as an Elseworlds. Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I did say that the funniest thing I think is about about the show is its depiction of that every modern Spider-Man story now is like Peter Parker being like one of the only white kids in Queens, trying to impress some girls, some like really exotic girls who live in Queens. Because if you've ever been to Queens, that is modern Queens. It is hilarious. But I was just like, this is so funny. Like, I love seeing whether it's like Tom Holland, whether it's this or the video games right now. Like, keeping Spider-Man in Queens is such a funny thing, and having to update it for the times is hilarious. But yeah, I like that part of it. I also like the conversation going on in Black nerd circles about the because people have had some issues with the Osborn race switch in the show. But Black people have found that hilarious because because there's been this whole sub discourse about how the Osborns were always coded Black because they had 360 wave hairstyles.
Yes.
Was always this, which I have been laughing so hard because I never really thought about it until like I've seen this discussion happen. But that always was super curious. I was always like, what kind of white people are these who have like, how is that possible? It was like this weird, the most fantastical thing about the Spider-Man books was the Osborn hairstyle. I was like, yeah, this is really interesting. How are you like white with orange hair, Irish as hell looking, but like you have 360 waves? I cannot understand it. So this was a good little change. We were like, oh, makes sense. I think we finally get into the core of the characters here. Yeah, but shout out to the Black nerds in Twitter discourse. That one gave me life in an otherwise dark week. I was legitimately in tears about that. Oh man.
I mean, yeah, and the voice actors are so good though.
Oh yeah,
Seriously.
Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
Like you can't. I would take Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn in live action. Like,
oh my god,
sure,
yeah.
I would take Coleman. Oh my god, Coleman Domingo and Willem Dafoe, like a multiversal meeting of Norman Osborns.
Dude,
that'd be awesome.
stop.
I would watch a whole movie of just
That
that.
would be so
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, that'd be great. Oh man. All right. Well, we just fixed everything for Marvel for the next 5 years.
That's
On
what
the Spider-Man front, we just caused an entire Spider-Man 4 rewrite. All right. So yeah, I mean it's okay. So it's okay. Like, right? Like, that's what we're saying. You know,
Yeah.
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man's okay.
It's cute.
We'll see how it goes.
Promise.
I mean, it's going to
Just
get more
promise.
lore heavy. Yeah, it's going to get more lore heavy. We're going to get, other suits, other Marvel lore coming into this.
Oh yeah, can I
yeah.
let me mention that like they're doing some deep cuts. As a kid who grew up on 90s Marvel comics, the fact that they are throwing in the Slinger costumes, like, oh my god, for those of you who don't know, there was an era that was post Clone Saga in Amazing Spider-Man where Spider-Man attempted to be 4 new heroes that all wore what was it? It was Ricochet, Dusk, Hornet, and Patriot, and he had all these different costumes that he was throwing on, and they have featured that in the previews for Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, as well as Peter wearing the fantastic, or what is it, the Future Foundation? Yeah, the Future Foundation costume. So I'm hyped to see those. I think that like they're going deep in the cut with those comic book Easter eggs for that one. So that's very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing all of those.
All right. So moving out of Marvel to Star Trek.
Oof.
Star Trek Section 31. Man, okay. So I'm a Star Trek head. We don't do it too much on this show, but I am a Star Trek head. I have been in for the new era, the Discovery era, the Picards, the Strange New Worlds. I'm here for the ups and the downs. It's been a mixed bag, just like everything on streaming in the last couple of years in every franchise. There have been some real highs. Discovery Season 1, part of Discovery Season 2. Picard Season 3, Strange New World Seasons 1 and 2. Like, we've had some real Lower Decks, Prodigy for the kids. Like, there's been some highs in Star Trek. This is not one of them.
No.
Which was, and I think what's upsetting to me is this is a project that seemed like a easy layup. You let Michelle Yeoh, who plays Philippa Georgia, like one of the great breakout characters of the modern Star Trek era, like universally loved character. And you set her on the Starfleet Black Ops team.
Yeah.
Where a person like her definitely belongs with other ne'er-do-wells. Easy formula for a hit, right? Easy formula for an easy budgeted hit. All you need is espionage, action, a couple hallways, a couple phaser effects, and we should be good. Like, my God, this movie. Like, I already knew it was going to be not a Star Trek, big theater movie. It was a streaming movie, but this movie's bad. It's not even bad. It's lifeless. It's just like, it's just there. It's just sound stages and conversation. And this is a talented group of actors. And I don't think at any point any of them seriously buy this as a serious thing. I don't think Michelle Yeoh ever once takes this movie seriously at any point in it. And it's just like, it's just weird. It's like weird watching. It's like watching a Star Trek fan film on YouTube. It's really, really bizarre.
Oof.
We are talking about Star Trek Section 31, the new Star Trek feature film that is out now on Paramount Plus. So, yeah. Anybody else have anything good to say? Janelle, we don't make you watch that much Star Trek. How did you do?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't think it was great by any means, but I didn't hate it. Like as I was watching it, remember, I don't know a lot of Star Trek lore or anything. But I was like, it's a streamable Star Trek-y, like spacey thing that is not too heavy to have on while I'm feeding my baby a bottle. Like it was just on in the background. It didn't like bug me, but it wasn't impressive by any means.
Yeah, it's I feel you. I think that this kind of came at perfect timing for me specifically, because my wife and I recently finished watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine for the first time, which I hadn't. We did a run of Next Generation because I really hadn't seen anything Star Trek related before. So we watched Star Trek Next Generation, and this took a couple years. And then we got into Deep Space Nine, which again took a couple years on its own, because those are giant seasons. They're like 26 episodes. Each episode is 1 hour long. So it takes a long time to watch these things. And ironically enough, with Deep Space Nine, that's where they kind of dive into the idea of Section 31. And I remember watching it and thinking that Section 31 was such a cool idea, because for those who don't know, Kofi, you kind of touched upon it briefly, but Section 31 is the idea that the Federation needs a Black Ops / Wet Works division, which is effectively like, yes, the Federation on its face is like peace and love, and we're going to unify the galaxy under this umbrella of, everybody can get along. But Section 31 is there to effectively be like, not everybody's going to get along, and we're going to need to kind of do some shady Black Ops work to make sure that people get along.
Yeah,
and
a few despots got to get got. A few,
some
ne'er-do-wells to make sure everything goes smoothly as we unify.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And Deep Space Nine does this so well, because you kind of mentioned another great point, which is the idea of like, you don't necessarily need a big budget to do this. Deep Space Nine did it in a way that was, Section 31 was this very interesting concept. And this was like effectively, there was this character named Dr. Bashir who ran the medical bay of Deep Space Nine, and he was recruited by Section 31 because he was so smart, and they could kind of see that, hey, we need more people in the Federation to kind of get on this, to get on our train. We need more people to kind of work with us to make sure that everything goes off without a hitch. And I think that that's kind of one thing that this movie wasn't able to really convey, was just the idea of like, hey, here's how Section 31 works, the viciousness of it, it doesn't need to be a big action-packed thing, it kind of works in the background, the implications of that, the moral quandaries of that, the ethics, considerations that you need to take into account when you are creating the Federation and like the landscape of Star Trek. And I think that there could have been a really cool Section 31 movie, a series even, that was able to kind of explore and like peeling an onion. And
it was supposed to be a series, but Michelle Yeoh started winning Oscars and stuff. And
and it was like, and that went right out the window. Yeah, so it's just it's sad of what could have been. I think that, you know, Kofi, when you were talking about some of the good that this modern era of Star Trek has been able to do, I think like Lower Decks is a perfect example of that. Strange New Worlds, I think, kind of balances out the new Trek with the old. And I think that it's just a miss here with Section 31. I think that they weren't able to really capture a lot of what could have been. And I guess thank God it's not going to be a series, because I don't want that. Because I don't want like this specifically.
Well,
so
I think you brought up a good point, and I think you hit the nail on the head, which is that if you didn't know this was a Star Trek movie, if it was just called Section 31, would there be anything to really tell you besides a few transport effects or phaser shots that this was? Yeah, there's nothing that tells you this is Star Trek at all. And I think the mistake is this, like you said, the real intrigue of Section 31 has been when it makes an appearance in Deep Space Nine or Discovery. And it's how do you have an organization that's about science, exploration, peace, diplomacy, but you have to keep this secret little assassins guild in your basement because you do need that rod in case something, you know, while you're doing all this peace stuff. Some of these, you know, Klingons, Romulans, like I was going to say Kardashians. Cardassians.
Yeah,
Cardassians. Yeah, are all these warmongering, you know, races. And how do you navigate that? Because you can't do it publicly. Yeah, and that's the intrigue. So that should have been this movie. And, you know, how does somebody like Philippa, who's aided the Federation in averting, galactic catastrophe in Discovery, but is still from a reality where she's a warmongering conqueror. Like, how does she fit in? And what happens when you introduce, more importantly, that I wanted to know, what happens when you introduce an element like her, who is so overridingly charismatic, used to being in charge, manipulative, you know, diabolically smart and devious, into Section 31?
Yeah.
You know, because her, like, seeing her misguided version of, yes, let's achieve the mission of peace would be the fun of this movie. Instead, they just do some basic superhero dilemma, like, are you going to live a better life now? And are you going to be a hero? And it's a simple heist mission with some ridiculous backstory that's so obvious from the first scene about this guy she once loved that we didn't need. That was completely unnecessary. So, yeah, they missed the mark. And it is such a, it's like Secret Invasion. I don't understand how people are getting espionage action wrong. The reason why the genre exists is it's cheap, it's easy. All you need is a good writer and some turns and some twists, you know, and that's it.
This is the perfect representation of like where modern Star Trek goes wrong. Because you're 100% right, Kofi, because like you don't need a big budget for this. You don't need explosions. You don't need a universe ending, you know, whatever thing to kind of unite all these things. All you need is like a very good script and a ethical quandary in terms of like, hey, like here is a problem that is presented. There's like some of the best Star Trek episodes are the ones that are just 2 or 3 guys in a room talking. And they're kind of, they have different ideologies, and they're kind of, and maybe one is kind of right, but is wrong on some respects, and another person is right, but they're wrong on other respects. And they kind of have a meeting of the minds where they talk about it. That's one of the things that worked so well when Section 31 was introduced, is that you as a viewer, when you saw it originally in like Deep Space Nine and like some other things, you were able to look at it and kind of, it presented the question to you as someone who is watching this to be like, whose side are you on? Do you think that Section 31 should exist in terms of like the Federation? Do you think that they should take some like really shady, they should make shady decisions to make sure that, do the ends justify the means? That's the number one, like, theory behind Section 31. Should you kind of get your hands dirty to make sure that you are able to ensure a better future for the galaxy?
And can you kill your way to peace? Is always
exactly.
That's the dilemma of the CIA, as of every nation. Can you kill your way to peace? Because that is the CIA. The CIA is manipulate, take over, and kill your way to ensure peace. Yeah. All right. Yep. Well, we don't need to waste any more time. We saved you guys a couple hours, so you're welcome. Yeah, we take the blows. Well, we take the hits, but yeah, Star Trek can do better. And if this could have been a Star Wars Disney Plus movie,
yeah,
who would have known?
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, who would have known? When you can't tell your Star Trek from your Star Wars, I don't think you hit the mark. And shout out to the director, because I'm not going to badmouth him, Olatunde Osun Saname, who is an accomplished TV director. He's done Discovery. He's done a whole bunch of other stuff, Bates Motel, Colony, Gotham, Blind Spot, Legends of Tomorrow, Sleepy Hollow, the Minority Report series, The Last Ship, Under the Dome. He's done a lot of good stuff, but this just wasn't one of them. Missed the mark. Yeah. All right. So we don't have to dwell on that. Let's talk about Severance. Anybody caught up on Severance? Janelle, you caught up on?
I didn't know that we were actually be covering this week to week, and I do need to catch up, but we talked about this. I need to rewatch season 1 because it has just been so impossible for me to follow season 2. It's just that long break, like you said, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, I did the benefit of watching season 1 right up until the minute season 2 premiered, and I was like, thank God.
But if we're going to be doing this week to week, I will do it. I will binge it all over again.
Well, we're going to get, it's going to fall off once Daredevil gets in here, but we still got another month where this is going to be kind of running. And and it's, believe it or not, is picking up steam. This has actually been a pretty growing performer for us. People are getting into theories. The Reddits are heating up. Like, it's getting exciting again. And it's a good show to talk about. It's like one of the only things we have for theories and, rewatching and spotting details and Easter eggs and, all of that. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm about to finish the 3rd episode, but I like that this season is going in a different direction. That it's not so much about mystery, but digging into because when I rewatched it, and I said this on the podcast, you realize once the mystery's gone and you're done guessing, that there is a really competent show here about us in the modern world kind of being at war with ourselves and compartmentalizing our lives and doing all this stuff and essentially creating versions of ourselves that are constantly in conflict eternally. So this show is leading more into second season is clearly leaning more into the drama of that and getting deeper into who these characters are, why they're doing what they're doing, who they are on the inside versus the outside and the dichotomy of that. And, and how more interestingly, their quote unquote innies represent some of these idealized qualities of themselves they want to be, but they're now just trapped in this box of work inside. So
it's the opposite of Section 31.
Yeah.
wherein you are just like, it's a very introspective series. And much like Janelle said, it was tricky for me originally because I should have watched season 1 again, because when season 2 started, I was like, even with the recap video that they had at the beginning, there were certain elements that I had forgotten about from season 1 that I was just like, oh man, I really wish I had watched season 1 again from the beginning, immediately diving into season 2. But I haven't seen this week's episode, but I did see the first 2. And I do think that it's a very interesting, you nailed it, Kofi, in terms of it's not so much focusing a lot on the mysteries like the first season was versus more unraveling a lot of the characters and kind of looking at how they are currently dealing with. I love the idea. I remember reading a quote that was about looking at the idea of if you are criticizing capitalism, then you are a part of capitalism in doing so, because your criticism is helping to fuel that. And I think that Severance does that in a way wherein the fact that I loved the idea. I mean, number one, shout out to Keanu Reeves for jumping and lending his voice to the claymation stop motion building. I thought that was just amazing. But the way that Lumen Industries is able to take the characters' original rebellion and turn it into a benefit for the company is so just like chef's kiss on that. What an amazing route for that to take. I thought that was amazing for them to do. But yeah, this season has been exceptionally good. I think that one of the things that when I had watched the first season of Severance originally, I did it because I was part of like invited to this event where the series creator Dan Erickson was talking about like his influences for creating Severance. And this dude pulled out that one of the major influences that he had originally was the movie Dark City, which I immediately was like, oh my God,
yeah.
somebody else remembers what Dark City was. I thought it was only me. And
no, I watched Dark City. That was David S. Goyer.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
That movie's great. And like you can see, I had not known that originally, but like when I'd watched I learned that after I'd watched the first season, and I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. But I think that like you had said it earlier, Kofi, which is the idea of like Apple TV Plus is one of those streaming services that like that 100% earns your money, because the missus and I have been watching Silo. And we're catching up on season 2, and that's amazing. Monarch Legacy of Monsters, a very good. I did not see that coming in terms of how good a Godzilla TV show was going to be, but blew away my expectations for it. And obviously like Ted Lasso, as well as some other series that Apple has shrinking. But yeah, Severance has been great in season 2. I think that like the way that they presented it, I don't know how many seasons this is going to get in general, but like yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. I think it's been on point with the second season, has worked exceptionally well so far.
If you're not watching this and you're wondering what happened to Janelle, her internet dropped in her neighborhood, so she just got yanked out of here, and we wish her the best. Have a good week, Janelle. Yeah, happens sometimes around here. So shout out to Janelle. She was we would love to hear more from her, but she's dealing with internet outages. I didn't put it in here, but I did tell everybody to watch it. Paradise on Hulu.
Yes.
I jumped into Paradise on Hulu this week, and I was interested just on the kind of initial mystery of it. There's like a whole murder mystery to it. But then when we got to the end of the first episode, I was like, wow, that was masterfully done. This show has me locked in now. Sterling K. Brown kind of reunites with his This Is Us.
Yeah. I think that I'm glad you brought it up. You brought up Paradise.
Dan Fogelman.
Dan Fogelman. I'm glad you brought up Paradise, because I binged it when you had originally recommended it. It wasn't on my radar initially, but when I heard that we were talking about it on the show, I decided to jump into it. The end, I guess I'll try to avoid spoilers in terms of the premiere episode's big twist at the end that makes it all the more interesting in terms of like, oh, that's where this show is going. I think that one of the things that I made sure that I wanted to reference is like James Marsden, great president here in terms of like, he's charismatic. Yeah. He's charismatic. You can buy him as the president while also having a very dark side to him. There's the way that they pepper in that premiere episode where they're like, what's going on in Colorado? I think that was like, that worked so well. It's like, hey, something's going on in Colorado, but let's not talk about that for like, we have to focus on other things that are currently happening. And so like the way that they kind of did that, I thought was very good. I was reminded kind of Lost in terms of the early days of Lost, in terms of creating an excellent mystery while simultaneously having interesting characters to kind of build on that. Sterling K. Brown is great in it. Watching the first couple of minutes where they give him a character introduction just worked exceptionally well for me. I thought that like he's great. He's great in everything he does, really. But yeah, I dig it. I think that this wasn't on my radar originally, but I was happy that you had had us watch this for the show, because it's just like, yeah, this is on my radar now, and I'm going to be following this.
Yeah, I saw just a random thread post about it, and somebody didn't spoil it. Shout out to them. But they were just like, Paradise, that ending of that first episode, man. And I was like, and it had been advertised. I go on Hulu a lot, so I'd seen the advertisement, but it just looked like another kind of like political drama. And I was like, all right, maybe I'll get to it. But then I was like, okay, well, that's intriguing. I'll watch it. And then by the end, I was like, yeah. No, but James Marsden doesn't get enough credit as an actor.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's so good in this. Like, just the way he navigate the show isn't scared to tackle, shout out to, I'm sure, Sterling K. Brown, who has a good amount of influence because he's worked with Fogelman on This Is Us and stuff like that. But just like race issues and things like that about like, if you want, some people are asking because we're so vague. Okay. So Paradise is about what we can tell you is that Paradise is about the relationship between a lead Secret Service agent played by Sterling K. Brown and the president of the United States, who's played by James Marsden. But he's like he's a Southern kind of conservative, but he's very charismatic and lovable and was able to kind of sell himself to the nation and do that. And you can see. And so the show kind of takes place in the present where, Brown works with a bunch of other Secret Service agents. They all kind of live and breathe around the president in his residence. And the premiere episode kind of sets up some kind of mystery intrigue plot that's going on within, the president and within the Secret Service agents, what they got to kind of investigate. But as the episode ends, it kind of reveals a much bigger scope of story that this is all taking place in. Then when you get the full scope, you're like, oh, and then by the time you get to episode 2, you're in a very different show. Yeah. And it plays with time like Lost. It plays with time. So there's flashbacks that it's non-linear. So you get that in the first episode because it's like you meet Sterling K. Brown when he's more a veteran guard of the president. And over that first episode, it's just flashbacks building out what their relationship is. Because early on, you notice there's serious tension between them. He's not like, he doesn't love this dude, but he does his job. He's like an awesome Secret Service agent. And through the flashbacks, you get how their relationship formed, starting from their first meeting when he first got the job in the Oval, when he went to the Oval Office and met this guy for the first time. But again, over time, as more flashbacks go, this builds out in what you're seeing, builds out in your context, builds out. And you begin to understand a lot more. And it's just very well written, layered show, as Evan was saying. You're peeling back layers of onion and you introduce more characters. They become relevant as you get more context. Their purpose changes, their status changes, and it's just keeping you guessing. It's that very much that Lost type deal.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of another show, but Dark City is a good example again, because Dark City is a show that starts very small and focused on this thing. But as you get out more and more, you're like, holy crap, this is actually a much crazier thing that's happening from this initial mystery. So yeah, it was really good in, top-notch acting, top-notch writing and production design. And yeah, I think by the end of the first episode, many people will be hooked, and it is a fantastic premiere episode.
Yeah,
get to the big stuff. That's the trick of it. Like when they got to the end, you're not even expecting another twist. Like the first episode's so intense enough, like you're edge of your seat, and you're just like, "Oh man, this is a lot that we already have to navigate." And then there's like this big thing, and you're like, "Whoa!"
giant thing. That's just like, oh, it changes everything. That's one of the things is like that, and I'm gonna do my best to kind of dance around it. But like that end of that first episode, as you mentioned, Kofi, just kind of changes the trajectory of what you were expecting for the rest of this season. I know that the creator had said that like he has a 3-season plan, which I think is refreshing. I think that like having especially for something like this, because like
chess moves.
Yeah, chess moves. And Lost starts out amazing, and then it was very clear that they were like, oh, Lost is really popular, we have to keep going, and they didn't have like a plan set up. So like hopefully Paradise sticks to it. I hope it doesn't become too popular, so they're not like 3 seasons, let's do 6 or something like that to kind of do it, because like 3 seems like a good number in terms of like, okay, you can see like, the breakdown of how certain things happened, how, the characters that you're seeing in the present, how different they are in the past, and like how they wound up here. I think that one of the coolest things, one of the most interesting things about that premiere episode, and again, this doesn't really go into spoilers, is that the president gives Sterling K. Brown's son a copy of James and the Giant Peach. And when Brown's character is his children are talking with him, all sound goes out in the scene, and you can feel this anger brewing under the surface for Brown, and like it works so well because you're like, that's an excellent way of building up that like something is bubbling underneath the surface for not just Brown's character, but like this, how did he end up here? How did this relationship between him and the president end up at this point? And so like it is a mystery series, while that is presented on one level that, as you said, Kofi, kind of blows up into this completely different level. That they kind of do a very good job of peppering in. I think that like when they start showing that characters in this small town are using a different kind of currency, I think that's the one. Again, not going into spoilers.
We're getting too far.
Yeah.
Too far out there. Yeah.
Well, I think that
we said. I think we did it. Yeah, but no, it's a great series. Check out Paradise. All right. To wrap it up, I'm not going to go into this because we've used up all our time. But on the comics front this week, Superman Lex Luthor special was a good read. I recommend you guys go check that out. It's a kind of a continuing the story of where Lex Luthor is in modern Metropolis. He got his brain erased by Brainiac while saving the world. But this issue deals with with Superman realizing he may need the old Lex Luthor back and the efforts they make to jog his memory. It takes us into a unique chapter of Lex's past and kind of further establishes connections between him and Superman that we didn't know before. But it's also a very telling kind of tragic chapter of who Lex was and how Lex could have been on the bend to being like a hero, a Mr. Terrific type of person in the world, if not for his bastard father. So it was a good read.
Superman books right now, I would really recommend. The Doomsday stuff has been great. As a Doomsday mark, I will say that like I've really been enjoying a lot of this stuff with like the Time Trapper and all of that crazy Superman lore, DC lore. So yeah, it's really, Williamson has been doing great on the Superman books.
Yeah, I know the DC Trinity books are great in the main line and in the Absolute line right now. We might be divisive on the Marvel side, the new X-Men initiative. Me and Matt were big Krakoa heads, but X-Men 10.
I'm with you.
Yeah, X-Men 10 by Jed McKay was excellent. It's a Cyclops issue. You have to put respect on Cyclops' name after this issue. One of the single best, and we're talking about just guys talking in a room type deal. And Cyclops in this issue just takes it up another level to why he's a much better leader than Charles Xavier ever was. And just Jed McKay gets the character of Cyclops. And this is one of the coolest Cyclops moments I've seen. So go check that out. All right.
I will say really, really briefly, I am also a Krakoa head, and I do think that like I still miss Krakoa. I think that era was just amazing, and I'm sad to see it go. But there are like diamonds in the rough when it comes to From the Ashes, and definitely like Cyclops is one of them. I think Gail Simone's Uncanny X-Men has been fantastic so far as well. So yeah, I'm with you on that one.
All right. And for Distance Nerdy Podcast, we said at the beginning of the podcast that Matt is at the Royal Rumble. So Matt is at the WWE Royal Rumble. He is living out his best life right now. So he's at Royal Rumble and covering it. So that's why he's not here and why we don't have an extensive preview of Royal Rumble, because Matt will be there firsthand. So we'll get an after report from him next week. That'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. We want to thank Matt for hustling and getting down to Royal Rumble. We want to thank Janelle for jumping on with us today. Sorry about our internet. Evan, thank you for coming on as always, and helping me dig through all this. And shout out to everybody who gets up at our earlier time and is still in the chat with us. You guys have no idea how much we appreciate it. All our regulars, Alex Glean, Distance Nerding, Jay Jones, Zach G, Oh, let's see. I got to scroll up. Brywood, Chris Chipperson, of course. You guys are regulars. Even some newer people. John Clark, Roja, everybody around the world who checks in from places. Martin Washington, my man who was here all day earlier, who was on Kingsport. Shout out to Tennessee. Damon, everybody. We really appreciate you guys. So thank you every week for hopping on and getting in the live chat with us. If you're just listening to podcasts on your favorite podcast platforms, that's great. We love your downloads. But be sure, if you're a regular listener, to tune in when you can to us live on YouTube so you can join the live chat because it's a whole lot of fun. All right, we were going to get out of here, but we'll be seeing you guys because the coming weeks aren't going to get slower. We got big releases happening, big new TV shows, big movies on the way. So the year is about to be heating up. We are going to shake off this ice. All right, we are Comic Book Nation, and we are out of here. Peace.